Hi there, we all want to create music faster, and in this video I'm going to give you some of my top sort of pro tips for getting things started and to keeping things moving and to producing music quickly and efficiently. My name's Andrew and I'm a professional media composer. I write for music libraries and film and TV. Let's get into it. So my first magic top tip, if you like, is to use ensemble patches. Actually, let's come to that in a moment. So let's talk about setup first of all. I think my first top tip is that you actually have to know what you're trying to achieve before you start achieving it. There's no point in setting up a template or starting with a blank canvas on your DAW if you don't know what your parameters are, what you're trying to write, what you're trying to achieve. So I think that's the vital thing to get started for a start. Get done for a start. And as a professional, I think using reference tracks, we're often given a brief and there's a set of references. Really working out what's happening in those reference tracks is an art in itself. So learning about instrumentation, learning about the structure of the references, looking at how the production is done, obviously the mood and the nuance of it, and just this, and more importantly, I suppose, and on the nitty-gritties, the stylistic sort of features of how the track is put together is vitally important and something that you need to know before you lay your fingers on your keyboard, really. Then I think it's really important, composing wise, to keep things moving and not get bogged down with instrumentation, not get bogged down looking at patches and stuff, trying to get the perfect sound. So I'd highly recommend starting writing, if it was possible, with a piano sketch of whatever you're doing or whatever instrument you want to do. And or I always use ensemble patches for a start. Now I tend to write quite a lot of stuff for strings, but my go-to ensemble patch is CSS, just Cinematic Studio Strings, and I would just use that to start off with, and then break it out into the different sections later on. So, or even not sometimes. Sometimes I do use this. I use Albion One quite a lot with the mics adjusted so that it doesn't sound quite so big, particularly for TV tracks. You don't always have to divide it up into violins, cellos and violas. It takes an awful lot of time. Don't write it like that. Write using an ensemble patch. There's ensemble patches also, so I use CSS quite a lot. I think the brass has an ensemble patch. Yeah, there's a full ensemble here as well. I guess the woodwinds does as well. Maybe not. No, there isn't a woodwind. There's a good, if you're wanting a woodwind ensemble patch and you have it, if I'm using a woodwind ensemble, let's just find it because it sounds quite nice actually. Out the Albion one, it comes in two flavours. Let me just find this down here. So Albion One. It's very old Albion, but here we go. There's two versions. Let's look at the short ones for a start. Woodwinds High Short. Sounds really nice. I really like that. I think it's lovely. There's an arranged version as well, which is slightly different. Short. Quite a lot of reverb on that. You can use the closer mics. I'll show you in a minute how to do that. There's a low version as well. So just to get rid of it, there's a lot of what's the whole Lyndhurst in that, isn't there? Nice. So again, it's an ensemble patch. It's really quick. So knowing what you're aiming for, having your parameters is important. I think not trying to orchestrate everything straight away, using a piano score or roughing it out in piano or roughing it out using ensemble patches is the way to go. My third top tip is a slightly contentious one, which is about quick and easy wins. I have done a previous video about composing quickly and sort of put a warning into that, or is it composing quickly and the pitfalls of it? I put a warning in that about using presets and loops and stuff, and I think there's a real danger there, and I'm just about to go through some of the ones that I do sometimes use. you have to be really, really careful that these are not really prominent in your mix or aren't too loopy and repeat too much. However, in terms of getting ideas going quickly and in terms of filling texture out, these things I find over and over again are really, really, really helpful. So for example, this thing here called Rhythmic Aura, it's an 8DO plugin. There we go, new Rhythmic Aura by 8DO. Great for tension tracks, like sort of TV underscore type things. Let's try the banjo one, just for a bit of variety. The orchestral sounding one's quite nice too. As is, what is it called over here? The Brain. Is it the Brain? Yeah, this one here. It's sort of quite electronic sounding. So I find that it's so useful, and you can put them into different keys with the key switches up here. One tip with using these things is I would rarely... Oh, where was that one? Because it's really nice. The Brain. I don't know. I would rarely just hold that down all the time, because it's a loop and it'll have been used lots of times before. Is it likely to get a copyright? No, very unlikely, particularly if it's in a texture. However, to make it a bit more of my own, I would do something like... something like that. So I'm using 2 or 3 at the same time. I'm using a little bit of each loop rather than using the whole loop over and over again. And that applies with all of these things. I think that's really, really important. So 8DO, New Rhythmic Aura, I do use a lot. It's great, but it's always buried. But it just fills things out, and it's a real speedy uppy sort of way of just getting things sounding good and gritty really, really quickly. What else have we got? This I loved, Sonos Score Originals Bundle. It has a similar sort of effect. Hello, come on. There we go. There's several of these. I'm using the Music Box and Plucked Piano, but it just literally is press the key and start. How beautiful is that? It's lovely. And there's hundreds of them. Let's try the basic ones down here. Play with that for hours, and as a starter or something just to give you again some texture or just to move things along a little bit, just as a little spark of inspiration. Absolutely invaluable. I use that quite a lot. There's a Steel Tongue and Santula mix and the Music Box mix, and there's an oud and a quinine and a ukulele muted piano version, and it's quite controllable. You can switch bits and pieces off, and you can get rid of the effects as well. It's really beautifully recorded. So that's Sonos Score. Can't remember what it's actually called. Sonos Score what? Originals. Just moving on. One I don't use a lot because I think it sounds amazing, and I won't know how to use this really, is Indie. This is again, who is this? Sonokinetic, I think, isn't it? Yeah, Sonokinetic. This sort of thing. It's a live recording which sounds really, really good. Just little elements. There's loads of them, and I'm not going to try and work out how the... it's got a very unusual GUI, which I can never work out. So I'm not going to try and do that, but you get an idea of the sound of it. It's beautiful. It's beautifully recorded. I find it I don't use it a lot, but I think I could use. I do occasionally. I think there could be instances where it actually really could like speed up your composing, and it could form the basis of something. But again, I think you have to be careful with the loop thing. It's also, I also find it quite difficult to change chords on it. I find it a bit clunky and awkward, but it does sound beautiful. It's worth a try. But again, the stuff needs to be buried. Some of this is quite melodic, and I wouldn't use that because it's just too obvious and prominent. This is an old one, Project Alpha. It's one of my original purchases from 5 years or so ago. There's some great stuff in Project Alpha. There's great sort of synthy stuff. Let's see if we can find some more. This is a cool one as well. This one. Very just rhythmic little ideas. Just great for quickly getting things moving and giving something some energy and giving it a real sort of feel. Some of these do sound a bit dated, I have to say. This blowpipe, for example, I think is a bit weird, but there's more. There's some bass. This bass dweller's quite cool. There's some really nice bass things in there. Bass sequency type things. Just for getting ideas going and rumbling along underneath stuff. This stuff's invaluable, but again, use it with caution. So this is Alpha. There's Project Bravo. There's Project Chaos, which I haven't got, which is more recent, which might be a slightly more updated and slightly more contemporary sounding version of this, but I think this is still very usable. I use Signal quite a lot. This is Output. It's one of their standalone VSTs. Going slowly because I'm recording. It's the same company that does Arcade, which works in a similar sort of way, but so easy to hear Arcade all over the place. You're going to hear Signal all over the place as well. It's really helpful for getting starting going. Very like I don't know, a clean rhythm. It just does really beautiful little rhythms and things. Let's try a few more. However, it's always very slow to change. It's quite clunky. And you can change things here quite a lot on some of them. It's possibly not the best example. Okay. See that? You can just start to a track, isn't it? And you can make it your own a bit. You know, there's something in there. Again, Signal, it's great as a starting point. It's great to get things moving, get ideas going. I wouldn't necessarily use it really exposed as the main part of the track, but buried sort of there as the motor. There's so many more of these things. I mean, these are just a few examples that I use quite frequently, but just looking around, I don't think there's anything wrong with using them. It's a bit like cooking and using high quality ingredients, choosing the right ingredients, and the skill being putting those ingredients together to make the final product. Purists would argue that actually you should be making your own raw products and run your own materials, but that's like organic gardening, isn't it? Do we all want to do gardening all the time? No, we want to sort of buy the beautiful ingredients and put them together in a nice clean kitchen, which is basically what we're doing here. Use with care though, keep them in the texture rather than the main part of the thing, so that you're not using something that somebody else has obviously used. And as I say, my top tip is not to use the whole loop all the way through, but to use a little bit of one loop and then to add another loop. So you're only, you've got two little things going at the same time or something, so that it sounds different. Hope that's been really helpful. Subscribe if you'd like to. Have a look at the video that's up here about composing more quickly, and hope to see you again. Thanks. Bye bye.